All right, you are in the final week of your first class, which is a great accomplishment. I know this has been a tough class for you, a lot of good work in here, but you have made it through and you've made it through successfully. So I'm really proud of the work that you've been doing. As we move forward in this class, I know you've been spending a lot of time with the servant leadership book and answering questions in the discussion board. And one person that she keeps coming back to is Peter Senge. And he wrote a book called The Fifth Discipline. I believe that later on in your program, you'll be reading this book. If you don't in this program, if they change that, eventually, when you're done with your master's, not during it, you're going to want to read this book because it's a really great book about organizational learning, written a while ago, but it's still very relevant. I think it's one of my favorite books on leading an organization and how it should be set up. And he really talks a lot about systems and mental models and how to get a shared vision out there. A lot of leadership books has been built upon his work, and he has a very Christian viewpoint on where he's coming from. So I think you will enjoy his work and where he's coming from on how he wants to lead an organization. So if you get a chance, I strongly suggest his work because she keeps going back to him when she talks about being a servant leadership. And he talks about this, and also Fryer also talks about reflective thought, about how important it is. And we talked about this last week in the discussion board, to make sure that you are taking time to think about how you're doing things and also getting feedback from other people. But instead of just reacting to situations all the time, having a systems approach, to develop a systems approach, so when things come up, there's a system to respond to it instead of just reacting. A lot of our principals or teachers are so busy that there's never a system in place for when something happens or there's an emergency, that people don't know exactly what to do. There's not a real well-oiled machine. Some of you may work at a school like that and some of you may not. So thinking about developing either in your classroom or in the office or wherever you are, department, that systems approach for how you tackle a problem or how you integrate something or how you implement a new project. And that you can't do that without having reflective thought. That focus on interpersonal relationships. How do you work with the other people around you and how do you build those relationships? Not just on what do you want to accomplish, but how will you work with people to get that accomplished? And then how do you develop that in a place of safety and innovation so people could try things without feeling like they're going to be judged or it's a competition all the time, that there's a team effort to what they're doing. You also brought this up about reflective thought sometimes is a little bit scary, and sometimes it's because, well, it's time consuming, and we're so busy in education that lots of times we don't set the time aside to do this. It also, there's a lot going on, and sometimes we don't always like what we see. When we look in that mirror, we spend that time on reflective thought and why things didn't go well. Most of the time it didn't go well because we didn't plan it out well. We get the results that we plan for. Our systems give us the results that we made them give us. So when our kids are not achieving well, it's because the systems we put in place help them not achieve. So we really, really have to go back and critically look at the systems we put in place and figure out what we need to do to improve them. And it's a little bit tough sometimes, but even Socrates 2,000 years ago talked about that unexamined life is not worth living. We have to go back and look at what we're doing to make it better all the time. So making that time for reflection is hard, but there are lots of ways that we can do it. And taking a walk, yoga or meditation is a great way. Stretching, I like to do that. Listening to music by yourself. Journal writing, I'm not good at that one. I think of writing as a chore, so I'm not great at that one, but other people do. Or prayer, just making time for yourself to think and think about your day. It's an important part of growing as a person and as a leader, whether you're a leader in the classroom, because as a teacher, even if you're not thinking about going to administration or not thinking about being a TOSA outside the classroom, you are still a leader in your classroom because you're leading those 30 faces or 150 faces that are looking up to you. So making that time to make sure that you are getting yourself in the right place every day. As a leader, we didn't get into this job about making money or gaining power. Teaching is not about that. Education is not about that, but because we like helping people. And so each one of us is a servant leader wherever we are placed in education. That really is what we came into the profession for, is because we like helping people. All right. Collaborative assignments, and let me see if I can pull this up from where I am. This was one thing that we had talked about, and some of you were confused about how I was looking at points. So let me pull up my assignment here. I'm just going to lay it over here. When we're using a Google Doc, and this is great as a teacher, it's one of the best things that was ever invented. And when you give a group assignment, you can see who contributed to it. So here's a document. I just pulled up one that we're using at work, and you can see we're working on the LCAP, and I can look at who shared this with. Jordan is our LCAP guy, and it's shared with 20 more people. If I go over to File, click on this and go to Revision History, and say, see Revision History, I know everybody who worked on this document, and I know when they worked on this document. So when we're doing collaborative groups, I know if you guys were working on a Google Doc, I know who worked on it and when they worked on it. So it's real easy to see if there was a leader that did most of the work, or if there were people that maybe didn't contribute as much. I can see by the color of what they were doing and when, so I can just kind of scroll here through the document and see different colors for different people of when they were doing things. Okay, so I can click here. See, that's Jordan did that. Click down here on Rosemary, so let me find something that Rosemary did, because it's going to be in a different color. And it's always good to use different colors for different people. So Rosemary did that addition there. And you just kind of scroll through what people are doing and when they did it. Very, very easy to see when you're assigning group work who's doing what. So just a great tip to use in your classroom of when you're assigning group work. Okay, so let me get rid of that. Where'd that go? Okay, you're on your final week. You've got your iPad reboot, and that is due Friday, not Sunday, Friday at midnight. So you've got two parts of that. You've got that digital habitat, and that's that table in that Google document, and the group's presentation in the Google Slides. So two parts, due Friday. Also, your discussion board final posts have to be done by Friday. Everything's due on Friday because I have to get grades posted by Tuesday. I will send you an email when grades are posted, and we are done, and you are on to your next big class, and I believe that starts on Monday, the 7th. So I wish you well in your class and your next class. Hopefully I get to see you again in your journey on your master's degree, and God bless you. Hope you have a great time, and I enjoyed working with you.